Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylee and these are my books. So in today's video, I will be sharing my TBR for Once Upon a Readathon, which is a month-long readathon for the month of November that my friend Hannah Blackwell created, and I am very fortunate to be a co-host for this readathon. I am a co-host and I am on Team Princesses, so I'm going to have Hannah's channel and the readathon announcement video linked below. Please check it out, and if you're looking for a fun readathon to be a part of in November, make sure to join Team Princesses because I am so excited and I want you all on my team so that we can compete and get the most amount of points and win this readathon. So I already have a book recommendation video for this readathon up on my channel. This is a fairy tale themed readathon. However, you do not have to be a fantasy reader to participate. And in my book recommendation video, I kind of take us through every single step of the readathon. There's 5 steps. Each step has different prompts associated with it. And I recommend books of every genre for each step. But this video is not a recommendation video, this is just my TBR video, so I'm going to share what book I will be reading for each step of the readathon. So for step 1 in the readathon, I will be reading Spinning Silver. This is actually a reread for me, but I'm very excited to be reading this in November because this is the book club choice for Hannah's book club that she runs with a couple other cool people, and I am actually a guest host for that book club. So I'm excited to reread this in November, that way I can participate in the discussion. And this fits the prompts of a retelling and features royalty for step 1. So I'm hitting 2 of the prompts because this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, so it's a fairy tale retelling, and it has some royalty in here, some kings and queens in here. This book is very, very atmospheric and a perfect read to welcome in winter. It's a snowy setting fantasy with an ice town and ice creatures. But I remember really enjoying the world building in here and really enjoying the character work, and so I'm excited to reread it because it's been a couple of years. For step number 2 in the readathon, I will be reading Ashes of the Sun because this is a book that has a map in it. Here is the map. This is also a book that I recently acquired, and this is a book that has some red, orange, yellow, and browns on the cover. Not a ton, but enough that I'm counting it, and so I think this book hits all of the prompts for me. I'm super, super excited about this book. This is a fantasy book with some sci-fi elements that has been hyped up so much by Cassidy and Mel. And I've heard that it has some Star Wars themes in here, which I'm very intrigued by. And basically, I just want to make sure I get to this while everyone is still talking about it, because I would love to be able to participate in the conversations with my friends about this book. So I'm excited to read this in November. For step number 3 in the readathon, I will be reading A Marvelous Light because this is a book that features a romance, it is a book that features family, and it is a new to me author. I also want to show off how cool my copy of this book is. I mean, look at this book. It's so beautiful. This is a fantasy book set in, I believe, Victorian time, about these 2 guys that end up falling in love and are investigating some mysterious circumstances and discovering magic along the way. For step 4, I will be reading Valor, which is book 2 in the Faithful and the Fallen series. Book 1 is Malice, and I read Malice a couple of months ago now and loved it so much, so I need to make sure I continue on with this series before Malice has been deleted from my mind due to time. I don't yet own Valor, but it is up on the screen somewhere here. I'm hoping to be able to buy it before November, but if not, I'm going to check out my library and see if they have a copy. But for this step, it will hit a book with magic, a book with a historical setting, and the hard mode of a book over 450 pages. This is an adult epic fantasy that follows a bunch of different point of views. We're in a time where there's lots of prophecies that seem to be coming to light. There's a chosen one trope and a destined supervillain trope, but possibly we're confused about who is who, who's the villain, who is the chosen one. There are evil giants, and there's a multitude of point of views, and I remember that's what really stood out for me in Malice, is that there were so many point of views, but I literally cared about every single point of view in the book. There was never a point of view that I got to and I felt disappointed when we started that point of view. And then the last book I will be reading for this readathon, and the book that I will be reading for step 5 of this readathon, is Grey Sister. And this is book 2 to the Book of the Ancestor series, and I read Red Sister last month and loved it. So again, it's kind of a situation with the Malice and Valor series. I read the first one and really loved it, and I just need to make sure I pick up the sequel before it's been too long since I've read the first one. But this is a fantasy series, an adult epic fantasy series about assassin nuns and lots of cool politics along the way, and it's really, at least the first book, focused a lot on training this young girl to become an assassin nun. So I'm curious if book 2 will also involve lots of training in this school setting, or if it's going to kind of open up the world more and we'll see what happens when she gets out of the school. I'm not sure, but I am intrigued. And for the prompts for this last step, this is a poll pick. I put up a bunch of books on a poll on the Readathon Discord, and Grey Sister is the one that won. And this book features conflict. The other prompt for this last step is an unlikable character or a morally gray character, and I'm just not sure if Grey Sister has that or not. I'm assuming so because, I mean, I feel like it's kind of the trend in fantasy to have some morally gray characters, but we'll see. So I'm thinking it's going to count for that prompt, but I'm not completely sure yet. But yes, those are all my reading plans for Once Upon a Readathon. Here are the 3 books that I have physically with me, and then in addition to these 3 books, I will be reading Valor and Grey Sister. So you can see it's very much a fantasy-focused TBR. Your TBR does not need to be fantasy-focused, but because I like fantasy and because this readathon is fairy tale inspired, I wanted to pick out 5 fantasy books that I want to read. But again, if you would like to join us in this readathon and join Team Princesses for this readathon, I will have Hannah's announcement video linked below, and in that announcement video in the description, you're going to find tons of really helpful links, including a link to the Discord and a link to a Google Drive, lots of documents about the readathon. And you can let me know down in the comments if you're planning on participating in this readathon, and if you are, what your TBR is like. And if you have any questions about the readathon, you can drop those questions in the comments too, and I will do my best to answer them. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time. Bye!